Welcome, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. I'm your host for the show, Dr. Lino Martinez. Oh, yeah. Welcome back, everybody, to A Little Less Fear podcast. Today, I'd like to introduce Clint Arthur. He shared the stage with Martha Stewart, Dr. Oz, Suzanne Somers, Caitlyn Jenner, IceT, and 5 presidents of the United States at Harvard, Cambridge, Oxford, London Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, Mercedes, Porsche, Coca Cola, Microsoft, AT&T, and the Royal Society of Medicine. His 21st best-selling book, Wisdom of the Men, is nominated for the Pulitzer Prize. And there it is. Ooh, I love that cover. I love that. Clint spits. I'm trying to read here. I'm sorry. Clint splits his time between home in New York City and Los Angeles and Acapulco, Mexico, where he lives with his wife of 20 years, Ali, and Nova, their billion-peso puppy. Welcome to A Little Less Fear podcast, Clint.
Thank you. Great to be with you.
So tell us about your journey. How did you get to where you're at today? And tell us what motivates you and what you do.
Hey, I've always wanted to be special. Maybe you can relate.
Yeah, absolutely.
See, when I was growing up as a little kid, my parents were constantly arguing and fighting and screaming and hating each other. And I thought it was my fault. And I was kind of right, which you'll see in just a few minutes.
Wow.
I came up with this idea that if I could become special, that maybe they would stop fighting. If I could become special enough, maybe they would stop fighting. So I found this thing called the Wharton Business School, and it was the #1 best business school in the whole world. And I figured if I could graduate from there, maybe that could help me to become special enough. So I graduate from Wharton Business School. Man, I poured everything in my whole life. You probably get this. Like, my whole life was freaking 100%, 150% focused on getting into the Wharton Business School for all of high school. That's all I was interested in, really. And that made me a very broad-based person with all kinds of extracurricular activities and excellence in academia and athletics and performing in plays, because you have to be an all-around person in order to get into these kinds of schools. And I graduate with a 4.0 in entrepreneurship, and I go home to get the congratulations. And what happens? They get into the biggest argument of all time. My dad storms out of the house and slams the door, bam! And I turn to my mom and I go, you know, Mom, the way he resents you all these years, have you been cheating on Dad? Ooh. And I'm sitting there in silence as that settles in. And I'm thinking to myself, holy cow, where did that question even come from? I never even thought that question before. Yeah. And then I'm thinking, wow, how did I get to be such a rude person to ask my own mother a question like that? And then I'm thinking, how come she ain't answering the question?
That's right.
And she goes, he's not your real father. Your real father was a doctor at the fertility clinic we went to for 6 years trying to have you, and you look just like that guy.
Wow. Whoa. Wow.
So now I didn't know who I was anymore. And I sure as heck didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up anymore. So the next business day comes along. I get on the phone and I call up the investment bank on the 87th floor of #1 World Trade Center. And I say, Mr. Vice President of the investment bank, thank you very much for offering me a job to fulfill the dream of every Wharton Business School graduate in my era to become an investment banker. But I've decided I don't want to be an investment banker anymore. And what did I do? Naturally, I ran out to Hollywood and I started writing screenplays and going on auditions and trying to figure out who I was. And the crazy thing is that most people go to Hollywood to lose themselves, but I actually went there to find myself. And for 13 years, I pursued that dream, and I wrote 30 feature film screenplays. I wrote 10 books, and I became a very special person. I became the Wharton Business School taxi driver. That's right.
That's amazing.
So, you know, that took me through all the way to December 31st, 1999. I don't know if you were alive then.
Yes, I'm gonna be 43. I know I look very young, but I'm in my 40s.
Okay, well, maybe you remember what you were doing that night on New Year's Eve of December 31st, 1999. Maybe you were
I
getting
remember I was listening to Prince because I was gonna party like it's 1999.
Yeah, there you go. Well, maybe you got some Y2K cash out of an ATM. Or
Probably.
I was driving yellow cab number 6087 that night. And in the back of my cab were these two guys who were MBA interns at Goldman Sachs. And I'm listening in on their conversation. Hey, man, did you hear about Mr. Carrera? They made him the last partner right before the Goldman IPO and he cashed out $1 gazillion. And I'm like, are you talking about Chris Carrera? How do you know Mr. Carrera? Chris Carrera was a pledge in my fraternity. When I was the pledge master, I used to make those little punks dance around the living room of the house with their tidy whities for their heads. And now he just cashed out $1 gazillion. And I go back to my little boat in Marina Del Rey at 6 o'clock in the morning when New Year's over. And I'm like, $513 driving a cab for New Year's Millennium. I should have been partying with Chris Carrera. Special. And that's when I swore that I would never write again.
Wow.
I took all my 30 screenplays, I put them in a trash dumpster, poof, set them on fire. It's not worth it. Why do it? Why do it? Not worth it to throw my life away. I should have been somebody special. Like my fraternity brothers who are all becoming millionaires, some of them billionaires with a B.
Yeah.
And I just focused on trying to salvage my life out of this ditch that I had dug. And I tell you what, man, after 13 years of being told you suck, you're terrible, you don't have a chance, your writing is terrible, after all the schemes and plans and tries and efforts and all the things that I did to try to make it in Hollywood and nothing went right, I had to relearn how to succeed because I had no confidence anymore. It was really, really terrible. And I knew that it was going to take changing me.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So what did I do? I started doing self-help seminars. I walked on fire with Tony Robbins. I did Toltec wisdom studies with Don Miguel Ruiz himself, author of the Four Agreements.
That's awesome.
I did men's power circles and ceremonies. I did everything you could do. And sure enough, as I changed on the inside, my outer circumstances in my life began to change. And I was able to get out of taxi driving and I got into selling gourmet food. And once I started making money, I met a beautiful person who believed in me as much as I believed in myself or even more. And, you know, we started to build a life together and she recommended real estate. I said, I don't know anything about real estate, but I could learn. So I bought Carlton Sheets, which was a real estate infomercial. I bought those tapes. I bought Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Then I bought A Fixer Upper. And throughout the 2000s, I was making money as a gourmet food sales entrepreneur and as a owner builder, buying properties and building houses in Los Angeles. And I got quite fat and happy. By 2008, I was 236 pounds, obese.
Wow.
And my marriage was on the rocks and my company was in trouble. And I went to a men's self-help campfire. And what does that look like? It looks like 18 naked guys dancing around a campfire, and I'm one of them. And that's the night that I changed everything in my life. I saw the shaman on the other side of the crackling yellow and orange campfire flames. You don't know it yet, but you're already dead. What are you talking about, man? I'm the most successful freaking guy on this team. 8 years ago, I was driving a cab. Now I'm a millionaire. I was living on a little boat. Now I live in a mansion. You're already dead and you And I didn't know what that guy was talking about.
What is he saying?
But I would wake up out of the sound sleep in the middle of the night for months and months. I'm already dead. What does he mean? And it came to be New Year's Day of 2009. I woke up and asked myself a question inspired by the shaman. I don't know what it really means to be already dead, but what if this is going to be the last year of my life? What if I was going to die at the end of this year? What would I want to accomplish if this was going to be my last 52 weeks on the planet? And that, my friend, is why I'm on this show.
Excellent question.
Because that question broke me through all the fear.
Got to write that down.
all the fear and doubt and procrastination. You know, when you only got a year left to live, when you're facing a clock and you don't know how much time you really got, you have a different kind of power and energy. And that was the question that changed everything for me because of that shaman. And I was amazed that the first thing I wrote down on my list of things to accomplish in my last year of my life was I need to write my book about what I learned at the Wharton Business School that helped me to become successful as a businessman once I stopped trying to be a writer and a movie star. And that book was called What They Teach You at the Wharton Business School. And I self-published it on Amazon.com, and I waited for the sales to roll in. And the first year, all 8 of those sales rolled in.
Yeah.
And I was smart enough to seek out a mentor. His name was Jack Canfield. And he published a little book called Chicken Soup for the Soul. I said, Jack, how do you sell 500 million?
Yeah, I have that book, actually.
Yeah. And he goes, you got to become somebody kind of famous. You got to go on TV news and talk shows. You got to go on radio. There was no podcast yet in those days, or I'm sure he would have said that. You got to become something of a celebrity. And so I hired a publicist and paid a lot of money for my first 4 TV appearances. I showed it to my wife and I said, what do you think, honey? She said, I think you suck. And I said, yeah, I think you're right. I'm going to need a lot more practice if I'm ever going to reach my real goal, which is to be on the Today Show and promote my message on the Today Show. And she said, well, instead of paying this lady all this money, why don't you book yourself on TV? And I didn't know how to do that, but I'm a very stubborn person. You know, you might have guessed that by me following the Hollywood dream for 13 years. You ever hear anybody who's done that? I haven't. 10 years. Yeah, you're supposed to make it in 10 years. I thought I was going to make it in 10 years, but 10 years came and went, and then 11, and then 12, and then there I was. And I started waking up at 2:30 in the morning, cold calling TV stations around the country, trying to figure out how do you book yourself on TV. And it took me 9.5 weeks to get my first invitation to go on a TV show. It was on ABC WLOX in Biloxi, Mississippi. And I can tell you, man, it's like one of the smallest TV stations in America in one of the smallest cities in America, but it was like catching a fish. Very exciting. And that year, the first year I started doing it, I booked myself on 7 shows. My second year, I booked 20 more shows. And my 32nd TV appearance was on NBC New York. And my 57th television appearance, I was on the Today Show. And they called me. They invited me on the Today Show. And Brooke Shields and Willie Geist interviewed me on that show. And they go, you know, Clint, you ask yourself a great question every year. What's that question? I said, ask yourself, if this was going to be the last year of your life, what would you want to accomplish? Because that has been the superpower that has broken me through all the fear, doubt, and procrastination.
And all because of that shaman breaking that question in for you.
Yeah, man. That's, you know, I teach a lot of people these days, how do you book yourself on TV? How do you become a celebrity? Because I've done what every author needs to do, really. You may not want to be a celebrity, but don't worry, you're not going to be Kim Kardashian or Kanye or anybody like George Clooney. You're only going to have a modicum of success. Like, you think Tony Robbins is famous? Do you?
Yeah.
Totally. You do, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, I'm here to tell you, my brother, that Tony Robbins is nobody. And as much as I love him, I have no disrespect. All I'm saying is that for you and me, Tony Robbins is very famous. But to the general public, Tony Robbins is 100% nobody. I'll start this again.
I showed you this picture. You recognize him? No. You thought you knew who he was, right? You have no idea.
No, I actually don't. I thought he was an actor. He's not an actor.
No.
No. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we'll go to more.
Do you know? No. Do you know who he is? Do you know who Tony Robbins is? No. How about you? You know who he is? Nobody.
Now, you may be thinking, well, that's just the wrong demographic. And that's true. It is the wrong demographic. But, you know, let's not stereotype.
You know what? I never even saw it that way. It really depends on who you ask. And it's so interesting because, yeah, if I think of Tony Robbins, I do think he's a celebrity. And I do think, I mean, I know he's this big man and that he's got an incredible stage presence and he's aligned with his highest self, but not everyone's going to know who he is. I never even thought that at all. For some reason, I thought everyone knew who he was.
That's what you think, because he is what I call a celebrity entrepreneur. He is, but look.
What do you think of Tony Robbins? You know who he is? Who the fuck's that guy? No, really. Do you know who he is? You don't know who he is?
Those guys are construction workers. They don't know who he is. So it is all about, you know, you could call it a demographic, but another way to call it is a target market. And you and I are into making ourselves better. We are into,
absolutely.
Right? We're aspirational people. We are trying to improve our lives, whereas most people are just trying to get to lunch. They're punching a clock and trying to get to lunch or to the bar by happy hour. That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, those are everyday people, which are the majority of the world are everyday people.
99.9% of the people are doing that.
Yeah.
But the people who are listening to podcasts
generally
are trying to improve themselves. We know who Tony Robbins is. Now, I love Tony Robbins to death, believe me. And that's why when I got an email from Tony's team and it said, if you donate $25,000 to Tony's favorite charity, you could be the host of his 60th birthday party in Los Angeles. This is me and Tony on the night of his 60th birthday party in Los Angeles. It took me 1 minute, 60 seconds to press the button and donate $25,000. This is the guy who was the taxi driver. Okay. I used to live on $500 a week and I could do that. That's the miracle of celebrity entrepreneurship, because I tell you, I'm not 1/1000th as famous as Tony Robbins is, but because of celebrity entrepreneurship, because of the things that I figured out along the way, it's not just TV. There are 5 things that celebrity entrepreneurs do, plus a half a thing. The 5.5 things that celebrity entrepreneurs do that position you as a celebrity in the eyes of your customers and prospects so that people are excited to pay you a lot of money to coach them, to go to your seminars, to hire you as a consultant. That's what this is all about. And I've written about that in 2 of my books, Celebrity Entrepreneurship and in Wisdom of the Men. And Wisdom of the Men is like my whole life is put into this book. And, you know, I was originally going to write about all the smartest things that I learned from all the men in my life. And I made a list. This is how I write books. This is how I write books. I make a list. What do I want to talk about? So in this case, I made a list of all the men who were important to me in my life. The guy who hired me for my first job when I was 10 years old, my grandfather, my father, my wrestling coach. And I made a list of all these people. And when I'm looking at the list, it was taking me years. Usually I write books really fast. I have an idea and I just write a book. This book, I came up with the idea in 2014, and I did not write the book until 2021. And I'm looking at this list round about 2019, and I realized if I only wrote about Dr. Oz and Mick Jagger and Mike Tyson and George H.W. Bush and Jimmy Carter and Patch Adams and Joel Osteen and John Travolta and Robert Downey Jr. and Simon Cowell and Snoop Dogg, and the names go on and on and on this list. If I only wrote about those people, I could have a whole 400-page book. And you know what? I was right, because this one is like 320 something, 326. It's 91,000 words full of me and stories about how I met these famous people. And, here's me and Iron Mike, the champ, right?
That's amazing.
Okay. And every one of these stories has a photo of me with the famous person or some other thing proving to you that it's all real. And, that's really the amazing thing, because I was never going to write again. And if it wasn't for living as if it was going to be the last year of my life, where I was no longer afraid, I just needed to do what I needed to do. I needed to write my book. And that started me on the whole thing, where that book became my first of now 21 best-selling books. And this one was nominated for the Pulitzer Prize.
So you said if you needed to do this now when you were no longer afraid, what were you afraid of?
Well, you become afraid of failing. You become afraid of looking stupid, not just to other people, but to your own self, because you've already looked like an idiot over and over and over. Okay. You become afraid of losing money. You become afraid of not making money. You become afraid of having your seminar be a failure. Like I remember, like the whole thing that got me into doing TV was that I was going to do a seminar about the last year of your life.
Yeah.
And I was going to do it in Las Vegas, and I was going to charge $400 a person to come. And I was doing my research, and it turned out Tony Robbins was doing a seminar the same exact weekend in Los Angeles, and he was charging $600. And I was thinking, why would anyone come to mine when they could go to his for $600? I'm nobody, and he's somebody. He's Tony Robbins. This is why I started doing TV. I had to build celebrity for my personal brand so that I could compete with Tony Robbins. And it's so funny. My mom, bless her heart, she goes, "You're going to be the next Tony Rogers." And, you know, look, like I said, I'm 1/1000th of what Tony Robbins is, but I'll tell you what, now I live in a mansion and I travel the world and do whatever I want to do. I'm going to spend a month in Italy and Spain, going to operas over Christmas and New Year's into January. And
that sounds
my wife,
amazing.
it is, and I'm so grateful to be able to do this and to have this life. And it's all because of these decisions to invest in becoming a celebrity in the eyes of customers and prospects. And I'm telling you, it's not all glamour work. You know, I got all kinds of video training inside the members areas of my TV training program, of me on this on Fox Las Vegas, and me on TV in San Diego, and me on TV in Dallas. And every one of those videos starts with me opening the curtain of my hotel room and it's dark outside.
Yeah.
See?
Oh, that's right.
Because
so are you about to tell, because I was about to ask you, you had mentioned earlier about celebrity entrepreneurs, the top 5 things, and then you kind of went into something else. Is this one of the top 5 things, to wake up before the sun rises?
No, it's to go on TV.
Okay.
And when you're going on TV, you think it's all glamour because it's showbiz, but
Right.
It starts out with you in a hotel room by yourself at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting up so you can start warming up and rehearsing and take a shower and shave and do your vocal exercises so that when you get on TV, you're going to be great. See, I did today my 120th television appearance.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. But that's what it takes. And when am I going to stop going on TV? Never, because I'll stop going on TV when I'm dead. Maybe not even then, because there's plenty of people like Elvis Presley. You know, I've done TV appearances with George Clooney, with Elvis Presley, with Martha Stewart, and they don't even know that I'm doing it. I'm using them. And this is another thing that I teach in my seminars, is how to get celebrities in your marketing for free.
How do you do that?
Yeah, well, you go on TV and you play video, what's called B-roll. Like, there'll be a little box, or they'll cut away to a different image, and they'll be playing a video of Elvis Presley as I'm talking about Elvis Presley. Or they'll start the segment with George Clooney in the movie Up in the Air, because I did a segment that was called, "If This Was Going to Be the Last Year of Your Life, What Would Be in Your Backpack?" So they started out that segment by putting George Clooney's clip when he's the motivational speaker talking about the backpack, right?
Wow.
You ever see that movie?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, watch that movie, Up in the Air. You'll understand what I'm talking about.
Up in the Air, huh?
Yeah.
I have not watched them. I'm writing it down right now.
Yeah. He's a motivational speaker.
Clint, tell us more about Wisdom of the Men. When you first started writing it, did you know already what you wanted the entire book to be about? Or did you kind of go with the flow and start including the stories that you wrote and the things that you were learning from the people you had met? I mean, how did your book, the actual book, come to the finish line? How did it come into fruition?
Okay, I was intimidated by this book because when I told you, when I was in high school, all I wanted to do was go to the Wharton Business School. I went to this amazing high school in New York City. And one of the most amazing things in my life is that my high school creative writing teacher for 2 years was this guy from Brooklyn who used to show up in corduroy pants and a rumpled a rumpled shirt and a rumpled jacket, complaining that his razors were dull and he couldn't shave. And he turned out to be named Frank McCourt, and he wrote a book called Angela's Ashes, and it won the Pulitzer Prize and became a big movie and made him rich and famous around the world. No joke. I went and visited my dad when my dad was like 77 years old. I said, Dad, did you hear about my writing teacher, my creative writing teacher from high school? And he goes, you mean the Irish guy? He even knew who he was because he had seen him on TV. And all my dad was interested in was the stock market. So for my creative writing teacher from high school to penetrate the consciousness of this 78-year-old guy who was retired watching TV all day, it's an amazing feat. But he inspired me to want to become a writer. And what did he say? He said, what are you going to write? You have to write what you know. And what do you really know except for your own life? So when I was writing down the lists of the names of the people who had been impactful to me, I knew what I wanted to write because I knew what happened with each of those people. And I knew what it took for me to meet Mick Jagger and how I had to travel from Hawaii to Amsterdam via London and then come back through Moscow and all of this stuff. All these stories have so much authority because I know every single detail because I'm writing about my own life and the stories of my own life. And I know exactly what I want to write. I always say it's easy to write if you know what you want to write. Mm-hmm. And that's why I really recommend that if you're an author or a speaker or a coach, and by the way, I'm not even a speaker. I'm an author. I'm a writer. Yeah. I'm not even a speaker. I'm only a speaker because I need to be a speaker in order to get people to buy my books and go to my seminars and hire me for consulting and invite me on TV shows. That's why I'm a speaker, but I'm not really a speaker. I'm a writer. So if you're a writer, you need to be a speaker. That's what I'm saying.
I am a writer. Yeah.
You see what I mean? You need to be a speaker if you're a writer. And when I write my books, I tell the stories that I know that I want to tell. And by the way, when you're writing books, this is a really important one for you. If you can't teach it in a story, then you really don't know it.
Yeah, totally.
You need to teach through story only because nobody is interested in information. What have I been doing here in this interview? I've only been telling stories. That's it.
Yeah. And
that's all I do. And that's all that's in this book. That's all that's in celebrity entrepreneurship is only stories. That's it. You know, and I know, look, it's a big challenge. There's a lot to it. And when I met Mick Jagger, I said, Sir Mick, what's the most important thing you ever learned? And he said, you can't always get what you want, but if you try, sometimes you might find you get what you need. And I know it's just a line from a song, but he wrote that song, and it's one of the greatest songs of all time.
Yep.
And it really is right. You know, a lot of people hearing me are writers and they're like, I don't want to be a speaker. Well, I got news for you. You got to be a speaker if you want to be a successful writer and sell books. And if you want to get hired for coaching or consulting, you got to be a speaker. It's very, very important. When I met Martha Stewart, I said, Martha, what's the most important thing you ever learned?
I love her.
And I love her too. You know, who doesn't love her? Everybody loves her. And she said, when I was a little girl, my daddy told me that I could do anything. And I believed him. And I know, you know, there's a lot of people out there who are like, well, of course you can be a celebrity, Clint. You've done 120 TV shows. There was a time when I had done 0. And then there was the time that I was on the Today Show with Willie Geist, you know?
That's so rad.
Yeah.
So, Clint, was your goal, I mean, as this came along, like, I want to meet these celebrities to share stories with them. No, that was not your goal? How did you start coming across, like, Ice Cube and Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart? How did you come across these individuals?
I didn't understand it. I did not understand it for a long, long time so all I knew was I was going on TV. That's all I wanted. And I wanted to be a speaker. And then I met this guy. His name is Dan Kennedy, and you've never heard of him either. But
no, I
his tax return is 258 pages long.
Sheesh.
That's because he has a lot of money.
Yeah, I got that.
I never heard of anything like that in my whole life.
Me neither.
And he is a marketing expert for entrepreneurs. And I did a whole seminar inspired by him because I won his award. I started studying with him and going to his seminars. And I started learning about how do you become a celebrity and the different methodologies for becoming a celebrity. And I won his award for Information Marketer of the Year.
That's awesome.
And when I won that award, you think that's the finish line. I thought that was the finish line. I thought I was going to be rich after that. No. That's, you know what that award is? It's just one more piece of marketing that celebrities use to position themselves as top experts in the eyes of customers and prospects. Awards. You have to pursue them and get them. And if you think about it, did you ever see that video of Snoop Dogg when he got the Hollywood Walk of Fame star?
I didn't watch that video. I didn't even know he had a Hollywood Walk. I live in Pasadena, California, which is not far from Hollywood, so I can probably go check it out.
You could Google it, but Snoop Dogg, he won. He got his award, his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And there's a video of him on YouTube. And he goes, "First of all, I would like to thank me."
Yes, I saw that. I saw it. Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, there's a lot of reasons he was thanking himself, including hard work and dedication and not quitting and all that stuff. But also, do you have to pay $40,000 to get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame? Did you know? What do you think? They're giving away free stars?
Honestly, I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, that's what everybody thinks. That's a whole nother thing.
I thought you earned your star and it was a gift for you too.
Yeah. You earn it, but it ain't a gift. You still got to pay for it. Okay. And that's another thing that I talk about in this book called The Golden Balloon. This is like people see your accomplishments and they always think more of it. Now that you have to pay $40,000, you think differently about that star, don't you? And think about it. They wanted to take away Donald Trump's star from the Hollywood Walk of Fame, but they couldn't do it. You know why? Because he paid for it.
Yeah. Now that makes sense.
Yeah. Wow. Now it makes sense. Okay. And they would have to give him back the money, and they ain't giving back the money.
No, they're not.
No, they're not. Okay. So I said, Snoop, what's the most important thing you ever learned? He said, life's too short to smoke cheap weed. Now, I had already given up smoking pot. Accidentally, I quit in 2009. And right before I did my first TV appearance. You can draw correlations to that or not as you like. But, I quit smoking pot and then started going on TV. And I thought about Snoop Dogg's most important thing he ever learned. And I thought to myself, you know what? It has really nothing to do with marijuana. It really has to do with standards in your life. Life is too short to smoke cheap weed. You got to have high standards. You got to have high standards for yourself. You got to set them and keep them and hold them because nobody's going to hold these standards for you. You got to hold your own standards.
What are your high standards? What are your standards?
Well, I'll tell you what. I just was putting together the final details of my trip to Italy and Spain. And when I go to the opera, I only sit in the orchestra section of the opera. When I was a little kid, my mom took us to the ballet, to the opera. I grew up in New York City. She wanted to have us have culture. And she would always buy the cheapest seats way up in the nosebleed sections. And I always hated it.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, I went to an opera I had nothing to do one day when I was like 48, 49 years old. I was in New York City and I went to an opera and I bought a ticket in the orchestra. And you know what? It's way better.
Oh, I'm sure of it.
It's way freaking better when you are up close and you can see what's going on instead of just seeing little dots way out in the distance. Okay. So that's one of my standards is that I always buy great seats to go to the opera or else I don't go.
I love
most of the operas that we're going to, we're sitting in the first 2 rows of the opera. That's where I like to sit, either in the front row or the second row. That's where I usually get tickets. Another standard that I have is that I only like to stay in great hotels. Like I tell all my celebrity entrepreneur clients and students, don't ever let me know if you ever stay in a Motel 6, because that's not what this is about. Okay.
Yeah.
No one is going to pay for you to stay in a nice hotel except for you. You have to do that. You have to set that standard. Nobody's going to pay for the Uber Black. You're going to want to take the Uber X. But if you want to live a life that you are happy about and proud about and makes you feel good, then you have to invest in your own experiences. And that goes right back to what's
in your own experiences.
Yeah, because life is too short to smoke cheap weed, and it goes to whatever, and the clothes you wear, the phone that you use, the car that you drive, where you live. Life's too short, man. It is much too
absolutely.
short.
So I'm going to ask you this question. If you have 52 weeks to live, how will you live the next 52 weeks?
Oh man, I am living it. I'm living in our dream. Like, we never dreamed we could have a house like this. We have a 19,000 square foot mansion in the best billionaire neighborhood of Acapulco. My next door neighbor.
That's incredible. I love Acapulco. And you're getting good food.
Yeah, exactly. We live in Acapulco because this was always our favorite vacation destination. And when it was 2 weeks to slow the spread, I said, where do you want to go? Back to our apartment in Midtown Manhattan on the 13th floor, or to a loft in Los Angeles?
No.
Or rent a house in Florida or Arizona where we don't really know anybody? What do you want to do? Or do you want to go to Acapulco for a vacation? So we came here for 2 weeks to slow the spread. It turned into 4.5 months. And at the end of the 4.5 months, we bought the 19,000 square foot villa. And now every day of our life is like a vacation, because we live in the exact resort where we would go on vacation all the time. And we never thought we could afford to live here, but we do. And here we are. So
that's amazing.
You're
pumping me up, Clint. You're pumping me up.
Hey man, that's what happens when you invest in marketing. And you know who Grant Cardone is?
No.
All right, Grant Cardone is another celebrity entrepreneur. You've never heard of him.
No, I haven't.
Okay, but when he has his conferences, he has had it in Marlins Stadium. Okay, where he rented out Marlins Stadium. He has it at Mandalay Bay Convention Center, where he rents out Mandalay Bay Amphitheater. And I said to him when I had him on my radio show on 77 WABC radio, I said, Grant, how much do you pay to speak at Mandalay Bay? And he goes, what are you talking about? I don't pay to speak. I said, well, don't you rent out the convention center for your conference? Oh yeah. We spent $6 million putting that conference on, but we're $1 million in profit before it even starts. And I go, well, you're paying $6 million to speak at Mandalay Bay Convention Center. And that's a hint, what I just gave you right there. But in any case, I said to Grant Cardone, Grant, what's the most important thing you ever learned? And he said, number one, your biggest problem as an entrepreneur is nobody knows who you are. If they don't know you, they're not going to buy you, because people don't buy products, they buy people. And if they don't know you, they won't buy you.
They don't buy products, they buy people.
It's really true. And if I don't know you, if I can't find out a lot about you on the internet before you want me to give you the money, I'm not giving you the money.
Right.
It is not going to happen. I've lost too much money that way.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I said is, Grant, what would you do differently in your career? And he said, I would spend more money sooner on marketing. And when I heard him say that, this was many years ago, when I heard him say that, I started buying all the best marketing that I could buy.
Oh, wow.
I'm not saying I would buy any marketing, because most people involved in business or marketing, they talk a good game, but they can't back it up.
True.
So this is very important. You got to be a very discerning buyer. When it's time for you to spend money, you got to really look and see, what are you buying? Who are you buying it from? Do you trust that person enough to give them the money and give them your time?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really good at being a discerning buyer and investing my time and money effectively. And any good marketing, I buy it. That's That's really what it all comes down to. And that's how I've been able to build my career to where I have this book, Wisdom of the Men.
That's incredible. Do you
Thank
foresee writing any other books, or do you kind of just take it as it comes?
I am going to be writing 2 books over this month in Italy. I'm going to write another nonfiction book, and I'm not sure which one. I have a whole list of nonfiction books that I need to write, and I'm not sure which one I'm going to do. And I'm also going to write a novel, and I'm really excited about that because my big goal at this point in my life is I want to become America's greatest storyteller. You know, like Tom Clancy, you know,
Yeah,
right? Or J.K. Rowling. I want Clint Arthur to be like that, a name brand novel storyteller.
you already are, Clint.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And if more entrepreneurs knew about that, if my target market was bigger, then that would be great. But my target market so far has been entrepreneurs, and that's why I need to expand it to general fiction readers, you know, like readers of thrillers. That's what I want to write a thriller that people are going to love and become America's greatest storyteller.
That's amazing, Clint. Clint, this has been an amazing interview. I'm feeling pumped up. I love your energy. I love your storytelling, your success stories, and everything that's bottled up within you. It's really amazing and it's fascinating. I'm just really glad that we came into alignment. What's one thing that you want the world to know that you feel is important?
Well, like I ask all the celebrities in my book, what's the most important thing you ever learned? What I've learned is that who you are is more important than what you actually do. Who are you is more important than what you do.
I love that.
Who are you is more important than what you do. Because there's a lot of lawyers, right? A lot of criminal defense attorneys.
Yeah, right.
But there was only one Johnny Cochran.
Yeah, right.
Okay. And Johnny Cochran would get paid a whole lot more money to represent a case than
Right.
any Joe Schmo. Okay. There was a lot of real estate developers, but one of them rode it all the way to having his name on all kinds of buildings and being the president of the United States. And I'm not on politics, but I'm just saying,
Wow.
I'm just, you know, that's the power of who are you. And it's the same buildings, you know, it's like, you really think there's a qualitative difference between one building on one side of the street and another one on the other side of the street? One of them has a name on it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's for sure. So how can our viewers, our watchers, our listeners find you and your incredible book?
Hey, go to Clint.com with 3 T's, Clint with 3 T's.com. Why 3 T's, Clint? Because one of my clients was the inventor of the science of nameology. What does your name mean? And she said to me one day, wow, Clint, I really wish you could add an extra T to the end of your name because the T's always end up on top. And I couldn't get Clint with 2 T's.com, but I did get Clint with 3 T's.com. And it seems to be working out pretty good. You can see my books there. You can see my seminars there. And Wisdom of the Men is on Amazon. All my books are on Amazon. But if you want to find out about how to connect with Clint, that's at Clint with 3 T's.com.
Clint with 3Ts.com, Wisdom of the Man. I'm so glad that I got to talk to a wisdom man, and that's Clint Arthur, everybody. Thank you so much for being on A Little Less Fear podcast. I look forward to reading your book, getting your book, and getting on this amazing energy that you're on right now. Thank you so much, Clint. I really appreciate your time and your effort.
Right on, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to A Little Less Fear podcast. You know, I keep going because of all of you, all of the viewers, the supporters, the listeners, the followers, the subscribers, the feedback, the comments that I get. I'm just really grateful to be where I'm at and to be able to bring all these people here on this platform to motivate the world. It motivates me to keep going. It motivates me. It lights me up to keep going and going and going. And because of that, my website's also going strong. I've created an incredible resource page for all kinds of people, anybody needing support of any kind. Please check out my website at www.alittlelessfear.com. And I've also launched freelance poetry for businesses, for marketing, for people that need something creative. Check it out. Check it out. It's fun. There's video poetry. It's visual poetry. And if you have any other questions for me, you can also email me at littlelessfear@gmail.com. Thank you so much, everybody. I love you all, and just a million thanks. Have you heard the old saying, you must love yourself before you can love anyone else? People often share that saying as the ultimate friendship and relationship advice, but they don't provide any guidance on how to love yourself. And it leaves us feeling either defensive, like it was only our fault that our friendships and relationships failed, or it leaves us with more questions than answers. How do I love myself? What are the steps? Where do I get started? That's why I want to invite you to a 3-day virtual conference, Love Yourself First, How to Develop Supportive Friendships and Meaningful Relationships. The conference takes place February 10th through February 12th, 2023. And at this virtual conference, you'll learn the secrets to loving yourself so that you can create lasting connections that will enrich your life. Tickets are now on sale. If you use my promo code LESSFEARSPECIAL, LESSFEARSPECIAL, on or before Friday, December 16, 2022, you'll receive exclusive access to special hidden tickets. And these tickets are only available with my promo code. If you buy your tickets after December 16th, use the promo code LESSFEAR20, LESSFEAR20. You'll receive a 20% discount. 20% is good, but it's not as amazing as the special hidden ticket prices. So get your tickets sooner rather than later. Also, because we know you'll want to share the love with a friend, if you buy 2 tickets in a single transaction, you'll also receive a 50% discount on the second ticket. If your friendships and relationships are missing the joy, affection, and the genuine conversation that you deeply desire, then you need to get your tickets for the 3-day Love Yourself First conference for February 2023. Reserve your space by going to https://alwaysloveyourselffirst.eventbrite.com. And don't forget to use the promo code LESSFEARSPECIAL. Once again, get your tickets at https://alwaysloveyourselffirst.eventbrite.com and use promo code LESSFEARSPECIAL before December 16th to get your special promo tickets. I will be speaking on the topic of affection. And I can't wait because I love affection, and this is going to change your life. I really look forward to meeting all of you and to being of support. Thank you so much.